Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to vet your tenants. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, there are several different sites that you can use if you are going to self-manage your property to where you can list your property online to where it has a specific landing page or a website or a link to where you can have your applicants go to fill out the application. So now that you've done that step and you have people interested in your property, you need to vet those individuals to determine whether or not you are going to rent to them. So you have to be careful because you cannot discriminate to the applicants in any way, age, race, sex, gender, anything like that. So, but there are things that you can do as a property manager or landlord, owner of the property, to determine if you're going to accept the application of those individuals. So first of all, whenever I have someone interested in the property, I always ask them to fill out the application. There's times where people are just going to, again, be calling you or emailing or finding out, asking about the property, like what is the rent, what is your minimum credit score requirements, and I don't necessarily weed them out at that point. I just say, please fill out the application. Or if they've come to see the property, or want to see the property, I'll tell them that I'm having an open house on a certain day, and they can then come to see the property at that time. A lot of the times that automatically weeds out people because I've had a lot of people express interest in the property, but then when I tell them to fill out the application or after they've come to see the property, a lot of times the people don't show up or they don't fill out the application. So you can sort of weed out those tire kickers just by asking them to do something, by like come see the property, or I have an application that you need to fill out. Now, I do require the applicant to pay for their own application, and I let them know that up front, that there's a $35 or $50 fee per person to fill out the application, and that includes a credit report and a background check, and that it's up to the tenant to do that. So a lot of these sites, if you go and create your own listing, a lot of these places will actually include a credit report and a background check that the tenant will, or the applicant will, fill out on their own. And so you don't have to worry about getting the individual's social security number or documentation or payment to do that, because these sites will have all of that information that the applicant can do on their end, and then once they've done all of that, it then sends it to you for you to review. It also gives them the ability to upload documents like their income statement, if you require a bank statement to see how much they have in their account, for like a down payment or that sort of documentation. They can send all of that, uploading it into that portal as well. So again, the first step that I never tell anybody up front that I won't rent to them based on a lack of whatever it is they're telling me. I just say, well, please fill out an application, and a lot of times that I never hear from them. So in other words, they kind of weed themselves out. So now let's assume that you've actually had people go through and fill out the application and provide the documentation that you require. Then how do you determine who you're going to rent to? So as far as the requirements that I go by, now again, you may want to do it however you choose, but I do let individuals know that I do not allow any evictions. They cannot have any prior history of being evicted from a property. So to me, that's a non-negotiable. If they've been evicted prior, then that's an automatic denial. So you can deny someone of the application or the ability to rent based on credit or eviction history. That's not considered to be discrimination. Now, you do need to read your city or your county's landlord and tenant act. There should be a documentation that you can go through and read as to what your obligation is as the owner, because there are certain things that you do have to account that you're held to legally. So, but I do tell them no evictions. And as far as credit score is concerned, I don't really care too much about their credit score. I do look at their credit report and will make a determination based on their credit history. If I see that someone has just a lot of collections or derogatory accounts, if they're late on things, that tells me that they don't have a good track record of paying their bills on time. And so to me, that's a red flag as well. If they're not going to pay their phone bills or their credit cards or their car loans, then why are they going to pay your rent on time? So I look for mainly those two things: any prior evictions, and if they have just a really bad credit history of collections and derogatory accounts and just a continual history of paying things late on time. Those are the main things that I look for. Now, I do obviously care about their income, because obviously I want to make sure that they can make their rent on time, their payments on time. So I do ask for income documentation. Now, some people will say that you need at least 3 times the rent as their monthly income. And you need to make that a determination based on you and what you feel. So I go through and I look at their income, and now if they maybe just started a new job, or if they don't have a good history of a consistent work history, that even though their income may be 3 times that of the rent, I might be a little hesitant to accept them as an applicant, because again, if their job history isn't consistent, then they may have a hard time paying their rent every month. Now, again, you just kind of have to feel that out. So don't be afraid to ask questions. It's you're doing your due diligence as the owner to really vet these applicants. And there's times where you're going to have multiple people at the same time applying for these properties. So you have to sometimes make sure that you're taking the people in order in which they come. And you just let everybody know, okay, I am accepting applications by this date, and I'm then going to make a determination. So give them a deadline to get their stuff into you, because some people will just drag this out, and you need to let them know that you have other people that are interested in the property and that you need to get their stuff, especially if they are applying with a co-applicant. If someone else is going to be living in the property with them, you need to make sure that anybody over the age of 18 is filling out an application, and that you run their background check and their credit report for anybody 18 years or older. So when it comes time to actually writing up the lease, you're going to have everybody's name on the lease that is living in the property, even if they're under 18. But as far as anybody over the age of 18 or older, you legally need to require that they fill out an application. So that's how I screen my tenants. I, again, make them fill out the application. I make them pay for their own credit report and background check. And then I require that they give all the documentation that I need. I then go through and make sure that they haven't had any prior evictions and that their credit is decent. I then will, once everything is checked out good to that point, I will then call and verify their prior rental history, and I'll look at to see that they have a good history with their prior landlord. Now, you may want to go back and actually see if you can verify the rent from their previous residence, because they may not have a good relationship with the current landlord if they're for some reason moving out because of some issue to potentially not be evicted. So you just have to be careful, and knowing that who you're actually calling is the actual owner of that property. Sometimes you need to just make sure that you're doing your vetting and your due diligence correctly to verify that the person you're calling is the actual owner or the property manager of that property. So just make sure that your applicant isn't lying or listing a friend on their application as to who their landlord or owner or property management company is. Obviously, if they are just paying a friend rent, then it may be a little harder to distinguish that. So you just kind of have to know the situation and feel it out. And so make sure that you do your homework and your due diligence in those ways. So, and then assuming that everything checks out with their rental history, then I make sure that I get the security deposit from them and the down payment, like as usually the first month rent, a security deposit, and then a cleaning fee. And then if they have any pets, then I require a pet deposit as well. And so I require all of that up front before they can move into the property, or when I give them keys, they need to give me a cashier's check. I do require them to give me a cashier's check for all of that, because again, I want to make sure that at that first start of the application of the rent, that first day that they move in, that I get a certified cashier's check from them rather than like a direct deposit from their bank account, because it can take some time for that to get set up and whatnot. But so I just require that they give me a cashier's check at that time, and then going forward, then they can set up their bank account to pay through there. So I will get into that in the next video. But anyway, that's how I vet my tenants and the process that I do. Again, you may have a little different guideline or requirements of maybe what you will allow or won't allow, but you need to make sure that you're vetting your tenants, because ideally you're trying to make sure that you get someone in there that is going to have a great history of paying on time and that they are going to pay their rent on time every month, so that you don't have to chase down the next month's rent or have to, even worse, evict someone. So you need to make sure that you do your vetting thoroughly up front and take the time to do it. So I am going to share tomorrow in the next video of how to collect rent and then how I stay organized. So the next video will be the very last video of this series. So make sure you watch that video and finish up this whole series. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this, and we'll see you on that last video. Thanks.